Morning, Coach. We are ready for you when you are.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everybody. Thought I would touch on a couple of national things here before we talk about Wake Forest and our team. With the playoff conversation, talking about whether it should be 4 games or 6 games or 8 games or 12 games, I think it would be interesting for all of us to start looking at the top 12 in the college football playoff yesterday and see if that fits. And how would you set it up? Would you have 1 and 2 get a bye? Would you have 3 play 12? Because it's conversation, and it's going to change the way college football works here very soon if we change. And how much change it is if you go to 6, and what if it goes to 8, and what about the changes in the conference realignment? So just sitting there looking at those last night made me think that we're going to have potentially some huge change in the way we determine who the national championship team is here in the near future. Secondly, it reinforces again the teams that were listed last night are legitimate ratings. And I've always said the preseason ratings that we were rated 5th last year at one time, we didn't deserve it. We were rated 10th this year before the season. We obviously didn't deserve it. So really and truly, the only polls that we should pay attention to are the ones that come out, ones that came out yesterday, because they've earned it. Wake Forest, Notre Dame, they've earned it. And then you start looking at that poll, and that's the poll that's legitimate, not the preseason poll whatsoever. You also look at the transfer portal. We had a couple other young guys decide to leave, and people have asked me about it, and very honestly, we're supposed to be doing what's best for the players. It's our job to try to educate them on who we are and what we are. But if a young man wants to opt out, whether people like it or not, that's his choice. If a young man wants to decide he doesn't want to play in a bowl game, if he wants to decide he comes out early for the NFL, or if he decides he wants to transfer to another team, that's his choice. And the NCAA's made that an easy choice right now for players. So I think you're going to see a lot of that moving forward with a lot of different teams. Some will do it during the season. Some will do it afterwards. There's always different reasons. The 2 young men yesterday that decided to leave are both in good academic standing. They're both great young people. They worked really hard, and we want to wish them luck. And we will try to help them get where they want to go. And that will not change as we move forward. And like I said on Monday, I think that also it's roster management. Then you got to look at what positions now. Do you recruit more at one position, or do you move somebody to another position? And that's just the way it is going forward. And Aaron, I think a better answer to your question about the inconsistencies of the program. I think the other thing that I didn't mention is the NCAA giving everybody a year back. Super seniors have made a huge difference for some teams, like Wake Forest. They got 9, or like a Pittsburgh with when Kenny Pickett decided to come back, and they've got some older guys that came back. So it affected some. We ended up losing 5 of our best players, and 2 of them to the NFL early. 3 could have come back, obviously, as super seniors. But some teams, it really, really helped. So you take the combination of the transfer portal, you take the combination of the super seniors and the addition of guys. I think it's made it more harder for everybody to figure out who a team is until we start getting settled here moving forward. As far as the Wake Forest game, this is obviously the best team Wake Forest has ever had. They're rated in the top 10. They've earned that ranking. For us, it's the first time we've played back-to-back number 11 and I guess they're number 9 now. Since 1943, we played number 10 Penn and number 6 Duke back-to-back. So it doesn't happen very often that you play 2 of the best teams in the country. Notre Dame's now in the top 10 with the college football playoff. And then you come back and play 3 ranked teams in 13 days, which is crazy because you add Pittsburgh to that. And then 4 of your last 5 games are rated in the top 25 in the college football playoff. So what we've talked to our team about is this has been a year with adversity. It's been a year with ups and downs, and the only way you get through adversity is go right through it. So we got to compete. We got to win against these really, really good teams at the end of the year. And it's what it is. And that'll help us grow up and help us get ready for spring and help us be better for next year. But you start looking at Wake Forest, this same team from last year scored 53 points against us. And they're averaging 43 now. Their Sam Hartman is fun to watch. He's like our Sam. For fans, it'll be a real treat to see two of the best quarterbacks in college football on Saturday and watch them compete. They're both very accurate. They both can run. They're both leaders. They're both great young people. So it'll be fun to watch them. They're friends. Christian Bill Smith played really well against us last year. He's an outstanding running back. And the way they run the ball with their slow walking RPOs as such, it's very, very difficult to stop. They've got 4 of their 5 offensive linemen back. But they've also made so many big plays with Roberson and Perry. Perry's 6'5", and he's just been an explosive play machine because they hold the ball so long. They protect well with the offensive lineman, but they can definitely throw it to him deep and make a huge difference. Their defense, unlike ours, they forced a lot of turnovers, and that's been a huge difference for them. They're +10, we're -1. And that's the biggest difference in these two teams. And then they've played better in the red zone than we have. They're number 10, or +10 turnovers, and they're 19th in the country in red zone defense. They're well coached. They play hard. Reds, I think he's got 5 turnovers himself, and he's a safety that's an outstanding player and really played well against us last year. But they're tough. They compete. They're well coached. They've got very few penalties. They're a whole lot like Notre Dame, and they're very, very well coached and good in the kicking game. So I'm impressed with our team that these guys just keep working. They pick me up when I get down, but they had a great practice last week preparing for Notre Dame, and that came down to 4 or 5 plays that were the difference in the ball game. And they practiced really, really well with high energy and great respect for Wake Forest this week. And they know that Sunday we got to go back and practice. We don't have any days off next week because we're back on the field in Pittsburgh on Thursday. So impressed with these guys. Really, I admire Dave Clawson. He's been actually the head of our coaches group, our COVID calls, our conference calls over the last year and a half. He's done a tremendous job under adverse circumstances. You get as many guys as head coaches on that call that all have opinions and all run their own meetings. It's not an easy thing to do. And Dave's done a good job, but he's also done an outstanding job of coaching this team. Questions, Mark?
Okay, Coach, thank you. First up will be Aaron Beard.
Hey, Mac, you mentioned Perry in particular, but a little bit more broadly with their receiver position. They have seemed to develop guys who can make tough catches. They had Sage Surratt and Scotty Washington before, and now Perry and Jaquari Roberson are doing that. And they didn't even have their top receiver this year with Donovan Green due to injury. Kind of what stands out to you about the way Wake Forest brings along their receivers to where they can reach this point and they're ready to make big plays on the field?
Aaron, I think they do a tremendous job of evaluating and then developing their players. I mean, their system is set up where they get you in one-on-one situations. You have got to stop the run, and it's really slow, and it's you have to be really patient. But it sucks your linebackers up. You have to get your safeties involved, and then the corners are one-on-one. And usually the receivers at Wake Forest are very tall, and especially the outside guys, and they get a whole lot of jump balls, and they have definitely taken care of the 80-20 balls. I mean, that's who they are. They beat you more than you've beaten them, and that will be one of the real battles this weekend is our corners with the deep balls against their great receivers. And you got to have a quarterback like their Sam and our Sam that's so accurate that he's going to give them a chance to catch the ball. He puts it in the right place.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Okay, over to Andrew Jones.
Hey, Coach, not that long ago in the pre-portal days, there was a saying about the bench being a great motivator. With the way things have changed, a guy, maybe you use the bench to motivate a guy, and next thing you know, he's gone. Do you think that might change the way some guys handle some of those situations, or do you just coach the way you've always coached when it comes to using that as motivation?
Andrew, we're going to coach the way we've always coached. And what you do is the guys that want to leave, you try to help them because they're young people that are making decisions in their life. And it's their life. Like I've said about any of our assistant coaches, if in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, they want to leave, it's their choice. And these young people are the same way. So it's our job to be supportive and help them, but we're not going to change the way we coach. We're going to continue to try to recruit guys that want to get their degree here, that want to go to North Carolina. And then we're going to hope the young ones are patient enough that they have a chance to earn their right to get on the field. And what happens that will solve the portal is usually winning enough that everybody gets to play. It's usually about playing time. And I'm not going to get into each specific person, but when you're winning enough games that everybody gets to play, then you usually don't have issues because mamas and dad want to see them play and they want to play and they work really hard, and that's fair.
With things being more transient now in the college game, and obviously the amount of time you're allowed to spend with your team has been reduced in recent years. I know you even said this fall you guys couldn't hit as much as usual. Should the NCAA reverse course on that and give you more time with the team so you can more properly evaluate? And these kids might have some of this information that they're leaving in the middle of the season. Maybe they leave earlier or even before camp even ends, so they can go to a new school and get going there.
I think so, Andrew. I think we need to have more time to scrimmage. I think that's important to let everybody see where they stand. And I would like more time. We really work to get walkthroughs in preseason, so and even some in spring, and it's working. Everything in college working more, trending more toward the NFL. Your practices are more in shorts and shoulder pads. It's nearly free agency now with the transfer portal. Again, there's some good things to it. I'm not sure it's the healthiest thing for young people that I get up one morning and I don't want to go to practice so I can transfer. That wasn't the case before. Or if I have a bad game or don't get as many balls as I'd like one game, I just transfer. But I do think that there's been more changes over the last couple of years with the transfer portal and NIL and lack of practice time than probably any time in the history of our sport. So a lot of people are going through a learning process here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, Greg Barnes, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, you've referenced the Pittsburgh game being 5 days after the game on Saturday against Wake. That game is important for a variety of reasons. I'm curious, as a staff, how do you go about forward scouting, if you do it all, and trying to get prepared for that game while also focusing, of course, on Wake Forest?
Greg, when during the bye week, we worked on our game plans for Pittsburgh, and we had to. We did it this spring, we did it this summer. But we worked on obviously Notre Dame, but we knew that we wouldn't have enough time to really prepare for Pittsburgh. So the only thing left in Pittsburgh preparation will be looking at the Duke video and assessing what they did. And since that's a noon game, we'll be working Saturday afternoon after the game. So we will be breaking down our game with Wake Forest, and we will go immediately to start adding the Pittsburgh Duke game to the other parts of our game plan that we have for Pittsburgh. So we'll be meeting Saturday afternoon, we'll be meeting Saturday night, and then we'll practice Sunday. So like I said, we'll go right back to work as a staff. There will be no days off here between now and next Thursday.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Coe, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. So it seems like with so much focus on the UNC rivalries with Duke and NC State that the rivalry with Wake Forest kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit. I was wondering if, in your mind, you have a defining game or moment from the UNC Wake Forest series that always sticks out to you when you're getting ready to play this game?
Yeah, that's Michael. This shouldn't get swept under the rug. They're the top 10 team in the country. What, number 8 or 9? They're really good. So this is very, very important to us. And since it's weird that they're not in the Coastal, but we've played them every year. So it's kind of strange that they're and they're not the crossover game. They're an out of conference game that's in the conference. So that's very unusual for us to have done this. It's kind of the way our year's gone. You get a game that's not on your side of the Coastal and they're in the top 10. So that's about the way the year's gone. The one I remember the most was I was about to get fired when I first got here, and we were playing a Coach Bill Dooley Wake Forest team in Winston-Salem. And we had just lost to NC State, I think 12-9 on the last second field goal. And we were down 24-10 at halftime. And I was trying to figure out what my next job was going to be. And Natrone Means came in and made a couple of big plays. And Bucky Brooks caught a huge touchdown. We ended up coming back and winning the game 31-24. And that pretty much turned us around, Michael, when we were here before. So that's a game that I remember very, very well. Have respect for Wake Forest, but also tremendous respect for Coach Dooley and coaching against him and what he meant to Carolina football was pretty special that day as well.
Thank you.
All right.
I think that was, excuse me, Mark, I think that was 1990. We'd have to check it, but I think it was.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go over to Luciano. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach, I hope you're doing well, and thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Last season, some threw for program records, 550 yards and 6 touchdowns. Does that mean anything to you and your team leading into this game? And what would you say are the main differences between this year's Wake Forest team and last year's?
I think the biggest thing we have told our team is that Wake Forest is the same team they were last year. There's 20 starters back. They're really good, and they scored 53 against us last year, and they've got another year's experience. So what we try to do is show them facts, and the facts are they forced 6 turnovers against Florida State. I mean, they've been a machine in turning over the ball and making sure their defense gives the ball back to their offense. And they've been so good in red zone defense. And we have shown our guys that. And that's been the difference. The biggest difference in their defense and our defense has been those two things. Is they've been better in red zone and they've been better forcing turnovers. Offensively, they're who they were last year. They're just they're a very unique offense that we all know and we've talked about. It's hard to defend because you don't see it very much. Florida State did some of it, and other people are starting to look at it, and it's just that slow RPO, and it's slow developing enough that it just makes you have tremendous discipline. And the other thing they've done much better than us is they've had fewer penalties, and I think that's because they're in a more experienced team. But we have showed our team all of those things. Again, there are 2 or 3, maybe 4 key situations at Notre Dame that could have changed the score of that game. And we've got to make those 4 or 5 plays better this weekend. We're not better than anybody. So we've got to play well and we've got to coach well. And the guys know that.
All right, we have time for 2 more questions. First up, Patrick Welter.
Mac, you talked a lot about the college football playoff ranking earlier. Do you feel like Wake Forest and the ACC are getting enough respect?
Patrick, when I was with ESPN, we spent 5 years looking at whether they picked the right teams or not. And that's a disaster. I mean, nobody gonna be happy. When I was on the Who's In show at one point, and I picked Oklahoma to be one of the 4 teams, and one of the producers got in my ear and said, "You just made everybody in the state of Texas mad." And I said, "I've done that a lot, so that's not a big deal." They all know how to get mad at me. But the I'm just sitting there watching and listening last night because I'm a college football fan, and this is very important to all of us. It's a very difficult thing to do. I hear them say they want to pick the best teams, and I'm sure that means schedules. I'm sure they look at stats, and I actually went and sat in one day, all day as one of the members of the committee for ESPN, and I went through all the things that they go through, and they're very thorough, and they look very hard. I don't think, Patrick, they'll ever make people happy. I mean, it's impossible, and maybe that is the reason you look at more teams, because if you let's just say, I think it'd be good for all of us to look at 6. If you look at 8, where does Wake Forest get in, or Cincinnati get in? Where does Notre Dame get in with 1 loss? What happens with with Alabama if they lose another one to Georgia, or if they beat Georgia? Who are the 2 that get in at the top? I mean, there was so much conversation at ESPN with the college football playoff rankings and who should be in, and it was always a tough discussion. So I don't know. I think it will know more at the end of November, and teams will separate quickly here moving forward. And as Aaron and I were talking about on Monday, some of this stuff, it's hard to even know who the top 25 are. You get past about 12, and then you're trying to find teams. And that's what I used to do when I was looking at it. You'd see a 4-loss team, and they might be better than a 2-loss team, and they'd played a tougher schedule, but you had trouble figuring out who's number 17 and what's the difference in 17 and 21. And so that stuff just gets crazy, Patrick. So I don't know. I sat there and looked last night and had a smile on my face, because I would have been discussing all that in TV, and everybody gets mad. I mean, Oklahoma's mad because they should have been higher, and Cincinnati's furious because they were number 2 in the country in the ratings. And so it's just it is a lightning rod, and I don't think that'll change even if we go to 12, because 13, 14, 15 are going to be mad that they didn't get in.
All right, we'll close out today with Ross Martin.
Hey, Coach Brown, I don't know how much you can answer on this one, but you've been so glowing about Wake Forest. Why do you think your Tar Heels are favored in the Vegas odds against the Deacons?
Well, number one, I don't look at odds, but number 2, there's been more inconsistency with people looking at who should win this year than any other time in the history of college football. So it is just crazy out there. So I think we've said it, Ross, and it sounds like a coaching cliche, but so many of these games have come down to the end. You look at Wake Forest with a last-second field goal to beat Louisville. They go into overtime with Syracuse. You just look at what Miami's been through. I mean, they come down to the end every week, it seems like. So I think you just can't tell. You just got to play the games, and obviously the committee looked at it, and I would put more stock in what the committee thought, and they think they're really good. I was wondering where they would be rated, but for the committee to give them, in fact, the committee put them over Notre Dame. So I don't think the committee is probably picking us to win.
All right, Coach, I think that's all we have for you this morning. Appreciate a few minutes.
Thank you, folks. Have a great week, and we'll see you Saturday morning.